Hello everyone, and welcome to my masterclass on custom door hangers or your welcome signs. My name is Katrina. Thank you so much for purchasing this course. If you purchase this course, that means you want to start making your own custom door hangers, or you either want to perfect making them if you've already started. Either way, I'm going to help you from start to finish, beginning to end, on mastering how to make beautiful custom door hangers. So I'm going to jump right in. I'm not even going to hold you. I want this to be an exciting, fun course for you while you're learning, so that way you can grow your business with sign making. And I'm going to talk about 3 different methods. I do them 3 different ways, so you can choose whatever is the best method for you. I'm going to show you different styles of signs. I'm going to show you different sizes. I'm going to show you different thicknesses, where you can purchase everything. I'm not going to gatekeep. I'm going to tell you every single thing because you guys pay for the course, all right? So I want you to go out there and make the most beautiful creative signs that you can, and I want you to have fun with this business. You're creating something special for someone's house, door, entryway, or their wall decor. And it doesn't just have to be a welcome sign. It can be anything. It can say anything you want. So I'm going to show you some of my custom signs, and I'm going to show you how you can make your own. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get started. And remember, the links to everything, all the product links, the supply list is going to be down below in the description box, as well as you'll get an email with the PDF as well. All right, so I hope you enjoyed this course, and let's go ahead and dive right in. Now remember, when you start making your own custom door hangers, please be sure to tag me at Katrina's Graceful Creations, because I would love to see your beautiful door hangers that you create. This is my own personal door hanger that I have hanging on my door. I took it off. And this was the first sample that I made with this style. I call this my luxury 3D board. So this is a combination of the 3D, which is laser engraved wood, and of course it's stencil. So there's no HTV on this one. This is an 18-inch hand cut board. So I cut this circle out myself. If you've seen some of my previous reels, I've cut most of my circles out myself because I wasn't really too happy on the pricing that I was finding. I wanted to really increase my margins. So I started cutting them out myself. But it does take a lot of work and extra steps. And I'll explain the thickness of the boards and everything up close to you. This is an 18-inch one, okay? And this is a 22-inch. 22-inch. So again, that one had 3D, that one was stencil. This one is all HTV and paint. And of course, both of these have my nice bouquet bows on them. But this is a hand cut this board again myself. And this is a 22-inch size board. This is another 18-inch board. But even though this one is an 18, this is hand cut with the plywood that I went and bought myself. This one was bought from Michaels. I bought this board from Michaels. This one is completely sanded plywood. It's a half inch thick. This one, I'm not sure what the thickness is, but it's not as thin as the next one I'm about to show you. But this one is MDF. It's an MDF board. It comes in a case of 6, and you can really save some money, but it's only purchased online. So now this board is an 18-inch. And it is, as you can see, it's nice and thick. It's not as thin as the 1/4 board. I don't like those sizes, but a lot of people buy them. A lot of people use them because you can get them in bulk and you can get them much cheaper. This one isn't plywood. It is MDF, but it is a still good, solid, sturdy board. It's not going anywhere, and I love the thickness. This one is done with all chalk paint, and this one is done with stencil. Okay, so you have 3 different styles, and you have 2 different sizes and 2 different types of board. Now the next one I'm going to show you, these are my 15-inch boards. These are my 15-inch boards. As you can see, they're much thinner. They're much smaller. These are the 1/4, a 1/4 inch. All right, 1/4 inch thick. As you can see, they're really, really thin, but that hurt it. They're still, solid. They're still good. You can't bend them, but they're much thinner. A lot of people use these. The majority of people use these because they're much cheaper to get. And a lot of times when you see people selling boards, they're selling this one because you can get a lot of these out of like a big 4x8 sheet, and then you can sell them much cheaper, okay? And they're lighter to ship. So that's the good thing about these. If you are starting out, they're lighter to ship. So they're still good quality boards, but depending upon the size of the door, depending upon your customers, they might like a more heavier, sturdy board. But it's going to be up to you what type of board that you sell to make your signs, okay? You can get these online as well. The seller I got these from, I bought these. I'll have it in the description box as well. I'll have it in the supply list. I can't remember right now off the top of my head because I found them on TikTok. I ordered 18 inches and I ordered the 15 inches. But because I want a thicker board, I just went with the route I did, either cutting out my own or buying them in bulk. So now the ones that you get from Michaels, the MDF, and I don't have the other ones. I'm going to do a screen share really quick. Right now, I'll show you. The 18-inch ones, you can get them in 2 different styles from Michaels. When you buy them in bulk, only online, right here, if you come on Michaels, you can get this beautiful 6-pack of unfinished wooden circles. They're $58.54. It's 100% pine wood. They're thick, they're really nice, they're unfinished. You can do whatever you want. You do have to attach, the string to them. They do not come with any strings, so you do have to attach the strings to them. And the best thing about it is 6 boards for $60, they're $10. And if you have a Michaels account, if you shop at Michaels all the time, how many of you know you can get coupons? You can build up your rewards. So a lot of times, because I'm making all these boards, because I'm buying my ribbons, because I'm buying products, I always have coupons. So I always have a discount. And then you can also use a discount. Use like a 20 or 25% off discount. I never purchase the signs without a coupon. Never, never. So I'm never paying the full price. That's the more expensive one, and it's fast shipping. That's another thing. It is fast shipping. And then you can also, if you don't want to spend $60, you can also get the other ones, the unfinished rounds, for $49.57. These are the MDF ones. Those are the ones that I just showed you. Those are the MDF ones. But the other ones, those are the real top quality, thick wood signs. So those are the signs. But now I'm going to jump on into Home Depot and Lowe's, and I'll show you. You can actually buy your plywood yourself and you can cut them out yourself, okay? So if that's the route you want to take, this is the actual boards that I purchased. They did go up at Lowe's, so I don't purchase them at Lowe's anymore. I purchase them now at Home Depot because the price went up. You do need something to cut them out. If you don't have a huge laser where you can cut them out yourself, you will have to get a circular saw. That's the one that you guys see me using in the reels. I'll have that link down below as well. You can get that from Lowe's or Home Depot as well. So it's really, really easy to cut out your own boards. So now I'm going to show you everything else that you need to make these beautiful boards, and we're going to get started. So here's everything that you're going to potentially need for making your custom wood signs. Now it might look like a lot, but I do have things out for all the methods that I'm going to show you. If you are doing the stencil method, if you're going to be cutting your permanent vinyl, you're going to need a Cricut maker, you're going to need a Cameo, any desktop cutter will do. You're going to need a cutting mat as well. And if you are doing the permanent vinyl, you're going to need, of course, permanent vinyl. So this is the HTV. Anytime you're using permanent vinyl, it's not to be heat pressed, it's permanent vinyl. So I use the Starcraft brand. I love this one much better. It just cuts and weeds much better. So as you see, any permanent vinyl will have this on the backing as opposed to regular HTV that you'll press. So this is permanent vinyl. You'll cut it, weed it, no need to do it in reverse, and then you'll just put it on your boards. Literally simple, just like that. All right, so again, I use the Starcraft brand, but you can use any other brand that you like. Now, if you decide to use stencil, there are a few methods. Of course, you can create your own stencils. They even have some of those poster boards people use. There's a lot of various styles, but I use the Starcraft stencil vinyl that you've seen me using in videos or reels. This is it right here. I only know of getting it directly from their website. Now you're going to need transfer tape when you're using the stencil. So I use the Tape Man Blue. There is another one, and you need a medium tack in order to transfer your stencil, okay? So I use the Tape Man Blue off of Amazon. There is another brand. Some people love the HTV Ront one. that comes with like the grid lines. Some people swear by that one. So it's completely up to you. You find whichever transfer tape works best for you, but it does need to be a light to medium tack so that way it doesn't get stuck to the board. So now let's go ahead and talk about staining. So most boards have a background color. Most boards are stained at first, and I use just the regular wood stains from Home Depot. I have various cans and various colors. The one we're going to be doing today is going to be done in the espresso, but this is what the can looks like. This is the brand I use. Now you can also paint your boards with acrylic paint. This is the brand that I was using, Apple Barrel from Walmart. They're just really inexpensive and cheap, and they go on good, but you do need multiple layers for them to get really nice and coated. So I kind of switched to the chalk paint. It's a little bit more pricey. I believe this is like $9, $10, or $12. Some colors cost different. So this, of course, compared to the acrylic paint, is going to be a lot more expensive, but it just goes on much better, dries faster, it's smoother, and less bubbles. You'll feel the difference if you paint it with acrylic paint, and once you start using chalk paint, you'll just notice a really big difference. And it's just better for stencils. It's better for stencils. So if you're only doing the permanent vinyl and you just need it for background colors, I would say go ahead, go with the cheaper version. This will do just fine. But if you're doing stencils, I would recommend, of course, the Waverly chalk paint. And of course, everyone, the most important question, people always ask me about the Mod Podge. Now, yes, I do buy the Mod Podge in the container, but I always have the spray as a backup. It's easier, it's faster, so I always have the Mod Podge spray. But my sealer, this is the sealer that I use. Everyone is always asking me what sealer that I use. One of them I got from Home Depot, one of them I got from Lowe's. When I went to Home Depot, I asked them about like the polyurethane that I've seen people use, but he told me this was better. It's oil based. It seals out water. It seals out mold and mildew. It's UV protected. This is the sealer that I use. So I spray like 2 coats of this on my boards, and this is the exact same type of spray, but it's just from Lowe's. This is the Hellman Spar Urethane. They're both Spar Urethane. So just let you know, it literally seals and protects the board. So I've never had anything. This one is a semi-gloss, but this one is a gloss. So I actually do like this one a little bit better, unless the person wants like a high gloss look to their board. All right, but these are the sprays that I use. So again, you can use the polyurethane. I believe that's how you pronounce it, but I've never used that. I asked them about that, and they told me this works best for outdoors for the wood signs. So now if I'm using my laser, if I'm doing a 3D style, you're going to need glue to attach the wood. Bigger pieces will get this. This is the glue that I use, the Tight Bond Premium Wood Glue. And if I'm doing really small, intricate pieces, this right here off of Amazon, baby, this will have your stuff stuck like in seconds. So this is the perfect glue, and I get it off of Amazon. So I'll have it linked down below in the description box. If you are cutting out your wood signs by hand, the back will have a small hole. All it takes is just a small dab, put it right over the hole, seals up the wood signs. Customer will never know. So this is what I use if I am cutting my boards by hand and I want to fill in that hole. And then you can always cover it and mark it with, after you do this, you can always, because I don't stain the back of my boards, but you can always cover it and mark it like with a stamp or with your own custom logo or a sticker if you want to cover the hole. Moving on, you're going to need sandpaper, some type of sanding if you're doing stencil, because this just helps you to apply the transfer tape much better. So sanding is always going to be key to help you with perfecting your boards. You're going to need tape for the lines. This is the tape that I use from Home Depot. I do not use the blue tape anymore. This just works much better. It's the Scotch brand. This is the Scotch 2020. If that means anything to you, it's just the painter's tape. I think I got this from Home Depot. It's the Scotch brand. It was cheaper than the blue painter's tape, and it is literally stronger. So I really love this. You're going to need, of course, some floral. I use eucalyptus. I use eucalyptus for my boards, as you can see right over here for my bouquet. Some people use different styles, but I use eucalyptus. I get it from Michael's. That's exactly where I get it from because they are pretty much the cheapest. And of course, the more things I buy from Michael's, the more coupons I can accumulate, the more rewards, and I'm just able to save when I buy. You're gonna need snippers. I'll show you. Gotta cut them off when you buy them in the little bulk like this, so you have to cut them and separate them. So you will need some floral cutters. Of course, you're gonna need various ribbons. I only use the 2.5 inch ones. This is the smaller ones. I do use that depending, you know, if someone wants a standard bow. I get most of my ribbon from Michael's and Hobby Lobby, but every now and then Sam's Club has an awesome sale. So all these big rolls, these are like 50 yards. These come from Sam's Club. So if you don't have a Sam's Club near you, if you don't have a membership, I'm pretty sure they sell them in Costco's or BJ's. So holidays, they always have the ribbons out and it's just much cheaper. Every other week, stuff goes on sale at both Hobby Lobby and Michael's. But again, Michael's mainly, Hobby Lobby, and then Sam's Club for my ribbon. Next, you're gonna need some paint brushes or rollers. Of course, you can use whatever you want. Different techniques. You'll find out which technique you like best. I like the rollers. I like the small ones as well. Depending upon how much area I am painting. And then of course, if I'm dabbing certain lines, I'm going to use a little small, like little makeup sponges. I don't have any right now for like stencils. So I'll show you guys all of that. And last but not least, of course, you're going to need the boards. You're going to need the boards, and you will need plywood if you are using the 3D. So as you can see right here, this is what it looks like, the 3D for the plywood that's glued down on top. So we're going to be recreating this exact same board, but all stencil, and they just wanted to say welcome. So this is the board we're going to be making today, but I just want to show you the thickness up close. This is the 1/4 inch board. This one is the 15 inch. So as you can see that, we're going to be using the MDF board from Michael's that you can get in bulk. They come in 6. So this is the thickness for that one if you buy them online from Michael's, compared to the ones that I cut out myself. So I'm going to put them up together so that way you can see the difference. Not that big of a difference, but it is the one on the bottom is the one that I cut with the plywood I got myself from Lowe's. This one is the 1/2 inch thick. This one at the top, the MDF, it does not give a thickness. It just gives the inches for the width of the board. The one on the bottom is the sanded plywood that I cut myself. The one on the top is the one I bought from Michael's, the MDF. All right. Also, I forgot to mention, you're going to need some jute, some twine, some strings. If your boards doesn't come with the hook at the top, some boards come with them. Most of them don't, especially if you're cutting them by hand and you buy the really, really thick ones from Michael's or from Home Depot. You're going to have to attach it, so you're going to need a staple gun. It's the Arrow brand. It takes different sizes as well, different thicknesses. So I really like this one. Really nice, easy to grip. And so you can use this, or you could either use the green floor wire to attach your ribbons, to hold your ribbons together. Some people staple depending upon the style of the bow, but this is what I use particularly. If you are doing 3D, you're gonna have to have some plywood. I have some colored ones, or you can spray paint them as well. I just happen to be Syntho, so I just had some colors. But this is the plywood that I have been using until I run out. I go get some more. I have like the plywood right here, depending upon your laser and how thick it can take. These are like 5mm pieces of plywood that I get from Home Depot, and you can use that for your 3D boards. Okay, so just didn't want to forget that. And of course, you'll need scissors for this project as well. Now let's go ahead and start making our first board. While I'm painting my boards, I'm always going to put something underneath it because, of course, I'm using a white table. If I'm just doing one, I'm going to use this board. If I'm doing multiple, I'm going to roll out contractor's paper. This is like really cheap. And I used to use this. The only reason why I had this in like a big bulk roll is because I used to ship my boards in this. So if you can't find boxes, I'll show you the boxes I use. I'll show you where I got them from. in the end. But if you can't find boxes, this is perfect. A lot of people, especially with all types of signs, you can just use contractor's paper. Bubble wrap and contractor's paper. I have a huge thing of bubble wrap. I'll show that later once I get to wrapping the sign. All right, so I'll roll this out now because I don't use this to ship anymore. So I'm just going to use this to paint. I forgot one thing. I have this little cheap Lazy Susan just to put the board on. Shake this up. Give it a good shake. Shake, shake, shake. Again, I'm using the espresso color. And I'm going to open this up. I use like a staining pad. I have one for every particular color that I use. So I'm just taking the color stain and I'm just going to stain it all across. So now this is MDF, the other one is pine, or depending upon if you're using the plywood, it's all going to take the color differently. So keep that in mind. And always stain with the grain, not against the grain. All right, so this is one coat. Make sure you stain the outside as well. So because I have it on a Lazy Susan, that's easier for me. And all I have to do is just turn it and stain the outside. You don't have to if you don't want to, but I always stain the outside as well. All right, so now I have the side stained, and I'll just rub it on again with a second coat. Want to make sure those lines are straight. I always go with the grain. I never stain or paint in the opposite direction of the grain. So I would never paint or stain this way because the lines in the board are going this way. I'm going to sit this outside actually so it can dry a little faster, and also because I'm in my garage. So I always sit them outside if the weather is good so that way they can dry much faster. Not a whole lot of sun out today, but it's enough to dry the board, so we're gonna let that sit out in the sun. If I'm rushing, I'll give it 1 to 2 hours, or I'll typically let it sit completely overnight, and then I do the next step the next day. So I'm gonna let it dry, and then we'll go on to step 2. So because I'm making another one of these signs, and because now I'm gonna be doing the word welcome instead of welcome-ish, I just wanna make sure that I am measuring the space right. So now this particular board, this is mine. This is 19 inches. So I know my board is going to be 18 inches wide, so it can't be no more than 8. I always want to make sure I leave a little bit of space on the side. This was a longer word, so that's why it's closer to the edge. This black space was only 5 inches in height. 5 inches in height. I could make it wider. I might take it up. So I'm going to just now measure based upon the word because I want my word to be at least 16 inches. 16 inches. So I'm going to adjust the word. Sometimes you have to adjust the width or the shape of the word to fit into the space, or you can just make this bigger. All right, so let's go ahead and jump back into Cricut. So I just want to show you how you want to measure out the spacing. So as promised, I told you guys I am not gatekeeping. So if you're just starting out with your sign business, you might want to get some templates from Creative Fabrica. That's what I use. You can get all your fonts, your graphics, or you can purchase them on any other, graphic design site. But I personally use Creative Fabrica, and all you have to do is come in here and type in the description box. You can type in wood signs. So first you want to look at the different fonts. So you can come in here and you can look at all the different fonts that they have. This is where I find all of my beautiful script fonts. So if you want to just look under, let's look at the script fonts first, and you can just pick anything that you like. Something nice, something thick. I have black sample, I have thick. I have so many of these fonts. So a lot of people always ask me what font is that. I get it from Creative Fabrica. Just come in here, choose a nice beautiful font that will fit your style, your aesthetic for your signs. And they have thousands. I'm not going to go through them all because they have so many to choose from. But if you're looking for some welcome sign templates, all you have to do is just type in welcome signs and let's just see what comes up. They even have laser cut files as well. So they have so many different styles. So you don't have to do, as I said earlier, you don't have to do just welcome signs. You can do autumn, Christmas, holiday. You can do birthdays. People want signs for all different types. Sports are really, really huge. So you can take any SVG and you can use it as a cut file or stencil file and put it on a sign. So come in here and find all your graphics that you want. This is a nice bundle. Let's see what this one says. And you can see what they say. I'm going to heart it. As you can see, it's favored by so many thousands already, and you can literally use this for your welcome signs. Okay, thank me later. Thank me later. All right, so this is where I get, so some of them, of course, I just find the font, and if I wanted to say my own thing, I'll just type it out. But some of them lately, especially for the holiday ones, I did come in here and I found a graphic for it. All right, so as you see, they have so many different styles. And if you are cutting out your shapes, you can do all these nice special custom graphics. So instead of just doing a circular sign, you can come in here and you can cut so many different shapes and styles. So this is where I get a lot of my templates and my designs from. So now let's go ahead and jump into Cricut. And let's go ahead and start with our sign that we're going to do for today. So now I already have a lot of my signs already, laid out in the fonts and different things that I want. But for the one that we're going to do today, they want the luxury one. I just found the stencil, this border, and I just pieced it together. So we're going to use this one. This is what we're going to use. And then I'm just going to type in the word welcome. I already have it measured out because, again, we're using an 18-inch sign. I want it to go all the way across. So I have mine measured to around 19.9 by 7.6. I'm just going to bring it in just a little. Now I'm just going to come over to the left-hand panel and I'm going to type in the word welcome. All right, so now I'm just going to come up here and I'm going to choose my font. All right, so this is the font that I'm using, and this font is called Smooth Chocolate, just so you can see that. I'm just going to expand it to about 16.5 inches, about 16.5 inches, because we want it to go across the board. But I'm also going to make sure I have my width measured out correctly to fit in that painted space, the painted area. So my welcome measures at about 15.5. I'm going to bring it all the way over to the side because the box area is a little bit bigger than the actual size of the word. So this says 16 at the top, but this says 1501. So we're going to leave it and just see. I'm not sure why it's saying 15 and then it's showing 16 at the top. Really weird, but I know for a fact that the spacing for this is saying 16.4 inches in height, but as you can see, there's space at the top and there's space at the bottom. So this is about, if I move this up, this is about 5 inches in height, about 5 inches in height. So we're going to leave that. That's perfect. And I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to cut this out. So if you're using stencil or you're using the SVG method where you're actually going to be applying permanent vinyl, then there's no need to mirror. Everything is going to be forward facing, meaning face up, and you're just going to cut as it is. This is the Star Mask stencil. So really, really thick, huge roll. I can't even remember how thick this was. You can get different sizes, of course. I'm going to put it down on the mat. You want to make sure you try to keep it as straight. You don't want to get wrinkles in this, again, because you're using this as a transfer. So you want to make sure that there's no bends in it if possible. All right, so I'm using the Cricut Maker 3 24-inch mat. I'm going to go ahead and put this through. So because I don't want to get any bends or crease in the stencil, I'm going to flip it over and I'm going to pull the mat away. So this is how I always do it. So that way I can keep the vinyl straight. So with stencil, you want to reverse weed. You're not going to be weeding out the excess around because you're not using this as vinyl. That's what you would do if it was vinyl. But because we want to paint in the actual parts that we want to keep, we need to take it out. All right, so I'm going to start with the word, and you just want to be really careful, especially if you're having smaller pieces and especially if you have like the insides of letters. All right, so we're going to pull that off. So like little pieces like that, you want to make sure it stays in. So I'm always just holding just to be careful as well. But it weeds beautifully. Peel the whole thing back. Now I'm just going to wait for my board to dry, and then we're going to apply the stencils. Once my board finishes drying with the stain, I'm then going to take the Mod Podge and I'm just going to pour it on, and I'm going to seal in the stain. This is going to help the paint stick. This is going to help the stencil stick. It's going to help everything. So I just literally take a nice thin layer and go across the whole one. This is the matte one, and I'm just going to rub all across it. And this, of course, is going to dry clear. So if you've never used Mod Podge before, it dries clear. So I'm going to let this sit overnight, and then we'll start back tomorrow morning. I'm just going to turn this over, and I'm going to use this Tape Man Blue transfer tape. Now, this transfer tape, even though it says medium tack, is still really sticky, So I don't put it down straight on it anymore unless it's like the second time I'm using it. If it's the very first time, I peel it, measure it, and then I like stick it to the counter or something else until I try to get it to be less sticky. Because the very first time, it is going to really be too sticky. So that way the stencil is not going to come off. All right, so you want the stencil to peel back really nice and easy. So I'm just doing this to measure it out. And I will have some other options linked down below in the description box, so that way you can see it. So again, I'm just going to lay it on my counter. Try not to get it wrinkled. That's what you want. You want to try not to get it wrinkled. And I'm just going to stick it down here. Because, again, trying to get rid of the stickiness. Now, I know this might seem like a lot. It's definitely an extra step. I don't do it all the time, but it's only because this particular transfer tape is too sticky and I don't want to mess up the stencil. Okay, so now I'm going to take my stencil and I'm going to take my mask. I actually put two pieces together to cut it better so that way I can save. So that way it's not as, and I don't even think it's long enough. All right, so I'm just going to tape this down and apply it. Try to take my time, make sure it's nice and smooth. I'm going to do the other side. Now you can apply your stencil. I cut my stencil like in a different way so that way it wouldn't be as long. So I'm overlapping it. Okay. And now I'm just going to peel this back. I'm just lightly brushing this because, again, I don't want it to get like stuck. Okay, so I'm peeling that back. If anything stays down, just rub it with the squeegee. That way it comes up. You want everything to transfer, especially if you have small pieces. Now I'm going to bring my board back, and I'm just going to position this where I want it. Make sure everything is covered that I want to be covered. And I'm going to make sure it's straight. So the Mod Podge dried all night. I'm going to take my tape ruler, and I'm just going to measure up from the top of this. That's about 7. Yep, so that's pretty much straight. And now I'm just going to take my squeegee and I am going to now rub this in. Rubbing this in. Making sure there's no bubbles. Making sure there's no bubbles. I will be trying a different transfer tape as well. I love the stencil, not changing the stencil, but I am going to try a different transfer tape because I've seen some other ones, but because I bought such a big thick roll, I'm going to try to finish it. But I need a transfer tape that's not as sticky. All right, so you see all this excess? I'm going to cut around it so that way I can peel back much easier. So I'm cutting around because this is not going to help me. It's going to peel with it. It might lift. So I'm just going to cut it off. And I'm going to peel back. I'm going to roll. And because this is all each a separate piece, it makes it a little harder. So I'm just being really, really careful. I'm going to keep rubbing this so that way it comes off. Friction helps. This design was always a little tough, but as you see, it's coming off. I just take my time and I peel back. You can kind of see when the stencil changes colors when it's glued down to the board. I'm using my finger more so, trying not to use the weeding tool because I don't want to put a hole in the stencil at all. You put a hole in it, then the paint will go through. Now some people say use a heat gun, but that has never worked. The heat gun method, like applying the heat gun, it just crinkles up the transfer tape. I'm doing this in real time so you guys can see. But if you find the perfect transfer tape, yeah, sometimes this thing literally peels off like butter and other times like this. And it's because each one of these is separate. There are a lot of different ways that you can do this, but making these boards with the stencil method is definitely not for the weak. It's a lot of time, a lot of patience, a lot of trial and error. So if you don't see yourself going this route, you can definitely go with the easier route with cutting out the permanent vinyl and just using the decals, and you can still make beautiful boards. The last piece, there we go. There we go. So now I'm just going to rub each one of these down. I want to make sure that this is completely sealed down, and you'll see when the stencil changes like color. And now I'm gonna place my turntable, Lazy Susan, back underneath it. All right, now because there's stain underneath, I'm not going to do like spot painting first, you know, because we don't want it to bleed through. So what I'm gonna do is just apply a light spray of Mod Podge. All right, it doesn't really matter if it's glossy or the matte one. That's just the closest one I have next to me. And I'm just gonna spray because we don't want any bleeding to get through. So I'm just gonna do a light coat of Mod Podge because it's stained. I'm not gonna restain that. I'm just going to spray that. Just gonna let that sit for a few minutes and then we're gonna paint. This is the paint that I'm gonna be using. It's called Plaid, but it's black. I'm just gonna take a little bit and dab it on. If I'm doing a lot of painting, then I'll like put it in a plate or something. But because I'm using a roller, I'm just going to just pour it out. And this is not gonna take a lot. The chalk paint goes a long way. And I'm just going to roll and spread this out. Now, if you're worried about getting it past the blue part, then you can tape that off, but I'm not. So I'm just leaving that right there. And also because the next part is going to be black as well. Nice and smooth. The roller helps you to get it much smoother than the paintbrush. So I really do prefer using rollers. I'm going to let that dry and then I'll do a second coat. Perfect. if you want to preserve your rollers or your brushes throughout the day so that way they stay nice and moist, don't get hard, especially if you're taking breaks, letting your paint dry, just stick it in a plastic bag. It will stay moist. It will stay fresh so that way you can still use it. All right. I'm only going to let this dry for like maybe 30 minutes and then I'll do a second coat. Sorry guys, I had to switch sides back to the original side I was on. I don't know. I went over there for a hot second, but I know the lighting probably was bad over there. This is going to be the second layer. And as you see, it doesn't take much. It doesn't take much because this spreads really good. All right, so second layer all the way. You want to make sure you get those edges too. You don't want any stain or any color that you have behind it to show through. So some people ask me, why do I prefer the chalk paint over the acrylic? Because it spreads better. It's just much better. It's smoother, but it does cost more. All right, so now I'm going to let this dry. Now you can take a heat gun to it, but I do have some other work to do. I'm going to peel this back in about maybe 30 minutes or so, and then I will do the next part. All right, that wasn't even a full 30 minutes, I don't think. I'm gonna go ahead and peel this back. As you can see, it's peeling beautifully. There's no bleeding. It just peels so easy. The bottom pieces, of course, are really easy. Just pulling it up. And then you just weed out the middle part. So I'm just going to weed the inside, making sure I can see. You do not want to scratch the paint. So I'm just grabbing it. And I don't grab like right at the edge because I do not want to scratch the paint. So I'm just grabbing right in the middle of each one. Now you can do this pattern in either direction. So if you don't want this and you want the whole inside, then you can do it that way too. The beauty about making these signs are you can do them however you want. Just find any patterns that you like. Flower patterns. A lot of people use the it's not called skeleton, but it's like those other type of patterns. You can literally do anything. Okay, so for my next step, I'm going to take the tape and I'm going to put it across here. I measured it out so that way it measures perfectly. I'm just going to overlap the top just a little bit so that way, of course, this will appear as if it's underneath it. Making sure that this is straight all the way across. And I'm just going to only mash down at the very top. I'm not going to mash down at the bottom because I don't want to mess up the decor, the stencil on the bottom. Okay. Now this is the stencil that's going in between, right? And I want to make sure that I have enough space. So again, remember we said we need at least 6 inches. So already that's like 5.5. So I'm just going to put it about maybe 5.5, and that should be good because we have to save space for the ribbon as well. So I'm using the grooves, the lines of the board. So that's what I'm going by. Okay, so and this will come, of course, in the middle. Here I am just trying to make sure everything is straight all the way across. And now I take the Mod Podge again. Now I'm going to spray along the lines. This is what a lot of people was asking me about. I always spray lightly just along that line. And you can take the actual Mod Podge and do it, but I just use the spray because it's faster. This is going to help me to get a crisp line. I only used the brush this time because it was like glopped up right there. I'm going to go light at first. I go up on the edges And this is where you could use, you know, like a little dab sponge if you wanted to. I always go up from the tape and then go down from the top. Okay, and I'm gonna just roll in the middle. Oops. See how it just spreads? This chalk paint just spreads beautifully. Okay. You can decide if you want to paint the sides of the board. I always do. Okay, so I'm just taking my roller and I'm just gonna go up just like that. And the roller is best for the sides. This is how the turntable is just easier to use when you do it with the turntable, a Lazy Susan. It's just much easier. Because 9 times out of 10, some of your paint is going to drip. So it's best if you have a roller. Okay, I'm gonna let that dry. That's the first coat. I am just gonna hit it with the heat gun just to finish drying it. So that way I can go ahead and do the second coat. Another reason why I prefer the chalk over the acrylic is you don't need as many coats. With the acrylic paint, you need 3 or 4 sometimes just to get a nice solid thick coating. So this just covers much better. It just covers much better. I didn't actually want that second glop, but it came out. So with this one, I'm only going to use two coats because it covers much thicker. And if you are using a paintbrush, just make sure you're doing straight, even strokes, and make sure that you don't go in opposite directions. You're painting with the brush in the same direction. Okay, so this is gonna be good, just like that. Let that dry now. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and pull off the tape so that way it can finish completely drying. Look at that line. Works every time, baby. I really, really love this method. And even before I started spraying the Mod Podge, it was still doing great. But this just helps me to perfect it. Now, this is the side we want to make sure that we don't mess up any of the stencil that we already laid, right? So let's go ahead and peel that off. And as you can see, everything is perfect. Everything is perfect. So I'm not going to do my next stencil until that is completely dry because we don't want that to pick up. Now they do want this board in white, black, and silver. I'll do this in white, and then of course the ribbon will be white, black, and silver. So I think I am going to add like silver trimming alongside just to jazz it up a bit. So this definitely has to be completely dry before I add the next stencil over it. It's only been sitting for about an hour total between, you know, both layers. So I'm gonna sit this outside in the sun so that way it'll dry faster. If I were to go ahead and add this stencil down now, it would definitely peel up. So we're gonna let it dry some more. All right, now that my board is completely dry, it's time to apply the next part. And I'm going to use this. I've actually never used this one. I believe this is the HTV Ronce brand. I've got it with one of my packages. So I've never used this one before for stencils. So I'm going to see what the tack is. And I believe this is going to be like a light tack. So I'm just going to test this one out to see if I can get it off. Okay. Yes, this is definitely a lighter tack. So I'm going to apply this one. Now, again, I'm still using the stencil method. You can use your Cricut permanent vinyl and literally just put this on here white. But I'm just doing it with the stencil because the customer asked for all stencil. Okay? So now if I wasn't doing the stencil method, this could literally just be vinyl, because it looks like it could be just vinyl, right? And I just apply this on here. So that would be the step where you can literally just cut out with your Cricut or your desktop cutter and apply the permanent vinyl. You would still need transfer tape. You would still need transfer tape to pick it up. That's why no matter what method you're doing, it's going to be faced up. It's not going to be in reverse, because you're going to just apply it as is. But we're using the stencil method. So I'm going to use the transfer tape to tack that down. And even if you were doing your laser cutout, you could laser your words out in 3D, and then you could place it on top of the board at this point too. So whatever method you're using, you choose, you decide. I'm just going to make sure now that I'm getting my word nice and centered as best I can. That looks good. Just like that. I'm going to place that down right on there. Let's see if we get the perfect peel. If I must be honest, completely honest, I prefer using vinyl or laser just because it's easier. Because as you see, all of this is just more time consuming. I can knock out more signs using permanent vinyl, but you have to decide what method you want to choose. Okay, you have to decide, because you just risk messing up the board if you don't have the right transfer. You just risk messing up the board if you don't have the right transfer tape. And depending upon what stage you're at of your design, you don't want to have to start all over again. So I'm just peeling this back nice and easy. This transfer tape does seem easier to peel off. That Tape Man Blue is really a much tackier tape. So you just got to be really careful. But this is an easier design to peel back from as well. As you see, this one peeled off much easier. I'll just have to go back and make sure everything is still stuck down with no bubbles underneath. And there you go. And now this, because it came off one whole piece, I didn't cut it, I can definitely save that and use it again. So now I'm just going to make sure all of this is mashed down, stuck down really good. Just make sure all those corners, those like little edges, make sure they're all laid down perfectly. Nothing is lifting up because paint can go through. But I'm going to show you a way to eliminate that. Gotta look straight. So another tip that I do is, I'm not going to do it for this particular board because I think this is pretty much sealed down really nice and tight. I would sometimes dab the exact same color as the background, in this case black, and I would paint black on the stencil. And then once it dries, paint my color that I'm going to do. My words are going to be in white, but I'm not going to do that only because this looks like it's really nice and tight. I'm just going to go ahead, spray it with Mod Podge again. You don't want any bleeding to go through, so I'm just going to rub Mod Podge across it. But again, typically what I would normally do is I would paint the same color the background on top, but because it's white, I don't want too many layers of black, because then I would have to do, you know, just to make sure I get it completely nice solid white. So I'm just going to do Mod Podge and then I'm going to paint it white. So again, I'm going to take my Mod Podge and I'm just going to spray. This is just faster and it's easier for light work. And I'm just going to spray the entire word to make sure that there's no bleeding. All right, no bleeding through. So I'm just going to let that sit, let that dry, and then we're going to come back and we're going to paint it white. Okay, I'm going to use the white. And I've had this one for a minute, so it's a little bit thicker, but we're going to use it until it's gone. So I'm just going to put that on there. And I'm going to roll that out. Now, You can tape the sides if you're scared you might get paint on something. So I'm going to stop and do that just to be on the safe side, because I don't want to get no white on the black. That's the last thing. So I got a little bit of white over there, and I gotta hurry up and try to get it off. I just got some alcohol, and I'm gonna see if this is gonna work. Otherwise, I'll just restain that portion. I'm just rubbing alcohol, so I'm definitely going to have to restain that, and I'll save that for later. Wasn't bad, but let's go ahead and put some tape on here, because we don't want to get any white on the rest of the board at all. Better to be safe than sorry. So I'm just adding tape to the sides. So this particular paint was a little old. I didn't realize it at first, so it was kind of stiff and hard to move around and spread out. So I had to switch from the roller to the brush because the roller just kept falling off. And then I had to switch to acrylic paint to smooth out over it. So as we know, things happen. So I'm just taking a Q-tip because I'll get more control, and I'm going to dab on in the spot to get out the white. And then I'm going to take a small tiny brush to go over the black areas. I'm just trying to blend in like the new strokes because it's going to make it just a little bit darker. So I'm just trying to blend it in all over the board to make it look, you know, a little even. I have never had to do this. Things always happen when you're on camera. And I could have left it off, not even showed it to you, but I might as well leave it in because you're learning how to make boards. So I want to show you, you know, anything that can happen. I can still see the white, but I'm going to definitely repaint the black, and then hopefully it'll blend in better. And that's the second coat, so I'm going to go ahead and let that dry, and then I'm going to peel off the stencil. Now it's time to peel back the paint. Ooh. That chalk paint was really cracky, so I went and put, because it was old, so I'm not going to use it anymore. So I had to go and use the acrylic paint over it. So I will have to repaint the black, because as you see, before I put the tape down, I had some areas where it actually got on the black. Get that out. So now all I'm going to do is just touch up the board, clean it up, clean up the black areas, seal it, and then we'll go on to the bow. And I'm just going to take a little small tiny brush just to clean up any of the white areas, like right here. So here I am just doing my last final touch-ups. I'm just repainting all the black where I got a little bit of white at. Once it dries completely, you won't even be able to tell or see. It'll be just like brand new. So every now and then you will have to do just some minor retouching just to make sure you're sending out the best professional perfect board as possible. I'm sorry, I didn't hit the record button. I thought I did. What I'm doing now is just adding some silver strips. This is permanent vinyl, so that way I can just make the board pop a little more. This customer wants black, white, and silver, so I like to add at least the third color in the board if I can. It will definitely be in the ribbon, so we're gonna add it to the board. And all I did was use my Cricut to cut out. I always have a few sheets. This is a 12-inch sheet. This is permanent vinyl. As you can see, this is the Caesar brand. You can use any permanent vinyl. Normally, typically I use Starcraft, but certain colors I already had. So this is like a metallic silver, and it's perfect because they want silver on it. So I'm just taking the strips, I cut them out. You can cut them out to be any width you want. I just literally made like a line, peeling it back. And so this is an easy method, especially if you're just starting out. You don't have to use the stencil method. You can just use the decal method where you're using permanent vinyl. Permanent vinyl. If you seal it, it lasts. Some people don't like it, but it's definitely a great way, and that's how I started. So all I'm doing is just adding these strips, as you can see right here, making sure it's nice and straight. And because this board is 18 inches, of course, I have to use multiple and put them together because the board is longer than this. This is only 12 inches. So of course I have to make it longer. Now when I'm using my other one, then I do have a much longer piece. I'll make it the size of the entire board. But for this one, we're just going to work with what we got and try to make it as seamless as possible so that way it lines up and you can't really tell. And I'm just trying to make sure that it's straight. And this is also a method that you can do when you want to hide any imperfections if you didn't get a straight line. So this is definitely a way to hide your imperfections. So as you can see, that's pretty straight. I'm just going to make sure I have enough to wrap around to the back to seal it in. Okay. You can clip it right here. You can clip it right here on the edge if you want, but I always just take it to the back. I always take it to the back. Okay. So now I'm gonna seal it with Mod Podge, then weather seal it with the spray, set it outside, and we're gonna go ahead and work on the bow. Back to the Mod Podge. If you like the glossier look, you can definitely use the glossy Mod Podge. But if you like the matte look, then you use the matte Mod Podge. So this is going to help seal in the paint. Just going to give it a nice seal, a shine. I just had to make sure that ink was dry down at the bottom. So I just took my heat gun to it really quick. Okay. And I'm just going to continue to spread this Mod Podge all the way. And it dries clear. You can't even tell that there's Mod Podge on it. As you see, the black part is already dry. Don't forget to do the sides. And I will apply some to the part where I have the ribbon at as well. Now let's do the bottom. One more layer for here, just for added protection, added security. You know, sometimes you need 2 layers of security. And making sure I'm sealing in the decal on the edges. Mod Podge is like a glue. So I'm making sure I put it here and all the way around. And as you see, I just have a small piece overlap in the back. Just a small piece overlap in the back. I'm going to let this fully dry and then we'll weather seal it. As you see, I have it sitting outside in the sun. Now when I'm doing a lot of boards at the exact same time, I'll put like a table out here, lift it up, sit it on the table. So it just depends on how many I have. But most of the time I'm just going to put some cardboard down and I'll lay them on the ground. So I'm going to let that dry for about 30 minutes and then I'll weather seal it. So as you can see, the board dried nice and clear. So now I'm just going to go ahead and add my outdoor sealer, weather protector. So I'm just going to shake it really well and spray the entire board. Just like so. I'm going to let that dry for about 20 minutes and then I'll spray one more final coat. All right, so the next step is going to be doing the ribbon. You can make any style of ribbon, but I'm going to show you how to do the bouquet ribbon because that's the one that I use the most and that's the one that's the most asked about. So as you can see, this is the Celebrate brand. You get it from Michaels. I have so much ribbon, and as I stated, I get it while it's on sale pretty much. So every other week, Michaels does a sale. If you know, same thing like Hobby Lobby. I do get some of my ribbon from Hobby Lobby as well, and I try to only use the wired ribbon. The wired ribbon will allow you to bend it and to shape it, and it will pretty much stay in place. All right, so try to get wired ribbon if you can. So now this customer wants black, white, and silver, so I'm just going to see, this is all the ribbon that I have like in silver, gray, and I'm just going to see which ones blend better. All right, it is a darker board, so I'm going to use a lighter ribbon. So I'm pretty much going to go with this one for the white, for the black and gray. And when I'm choosing my ribbons, I try to have something that's going to balance. I don't want the ribbon patterns to be too busy. So this one has, you know, like lines. This one has lines. So I'm pretty much going to use these two together and then with the white. All right, so if I was using this one, then I would do this one. Now this one might go better because of the actual style on the board. So I think I'm going to go ahead and switch to this one with the stripes and then with this one. So I think these will match much better. All right. You can use floral wire to bind it together, or you can use the twine. I'm going to be using the twine today. You're also going to need some floral cutters. You're going to need whatever type of floral you want. I buy mine on the stem just like this from Michaels as well. This is the eucalyptus, and then I snip it off. And then you're going to need a staple gun. Now you can use hot glue if you want, but for the method that I'm doing for longevity, because I've noticed in the very beginning, if you're doing a really big bow, the hot glue does not hold it down in place. You're going to need something else, and it might pop off. You know, it's outside, so it could fall off. So staple gun is best. So I'm just going to take this ribbon and I'm going to do about 18 inches. I typically just eye it now because I've done it so long. I've been doing it for a while. So I know when I bend it how much I'm going to need, right? So I'm going to need about that much hanging off. So I'm just going to cut it right here. And if I'm using 3 colors, then I'll use 3 to 4 pieces each. Okay, so it will vary depending on how many color ribbons I am using. So I'm going to cut, oh, snizzap. So you see that? I'm still going to try to use that. All right, I'm going to use that for a front piece, hopefully. So I said, oh, snizzap on camera. I'm sorry. So I'm hoping that I have enough. If not, I'll add in another ribbon. So that's why I like those bigger rolls better, because they just last longer. All right, we got 3 strips of that. And now I'm going to add in the white. So now what you want to do, in order to achieve that bouquet effect, I'm just going to take the ribbon, fold it back, and I'm just going to hold it in my hand just like this. I'm going to pinch it. You just want a small piece in the back, just a small piece in the back, so that way you know where you're bending it. The loop is what's going to stick out. So you just want to make sure it's secured enough so that way when you wrap the twine, the back piece is held in place, right? Take the next piece, bend it back just like that again, and just put it in the front of this one. All right, and I'm just going to keep picking up the ribbon, making sure that the back side of the ribbon is on the inside. Okay, now gathering it together in my hand, and I'm going to now alternate the colors. I'm going to alternate the colors. The black was in the back, right? So now I'm going to put the gray in the back. Now I'm going to put the gray in the back. I'm going to put the white in the middle. And the short piece, I'm going to use that for the front, because that's going to be the shortest tail in the front. All right, now that's going to go in my middle. That's going to go in my middle. I'm going to go back to, I'm going to put the gray in the back now. I don't want the white in the back. I don't want the white in the back. I want the white to stay. I'm going to alternate between the gray and the black. So now the gray is going to go in the back again, that, and then the white. You'll decide the pattern that you want. You'll decide the pattern that you want. So now this is the front. I'm going to put it this way on this side. I'm going to put it this way on this side. I'm trying to see how it's looking together. Sometimes if I don't feel like it's too full, then I can add something else, right? But it doesn't need to be so big and so fluffy. That's perfect just for me. I started out with 4 pieces each, but again, these ribbons are really expensive, and as you can see, they run out really quick. So now I've taken it down to 3. I used to use 4 pieces each, but this will give you a nice flower. It's going to spread out on the board, and you don't want it to be too big. You don't want it to be too big. So now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to make sure that all of my tails are facing in the way, because when I spread it out on the board, you want to make sure this is facing forward, right? You don't want to make sure any of your ribbon is backwards. So this is going to be my middle piece, and this is going to be the side. I want to make sure everything is facing in the right direction, okay? Now you can also do your ribbon if you are doing 4 pieces, and you can lay it flat and then spread it out, have the tails coming out on all ends. I don't do that. I only have my tails coming in the front, and you'll see, and I'll explain that once I attach it to the board. So I'm just going to cut a piece of the jute string, cut a piece of that, and I'm making sure they're all even. I'm going to bring this gray one down. This is the time where you can shape it. This is the time where you can, change it before you tighten it all up together, making sure everything is good. So I'm going to go ahead, making sure this middle piece is down in there. You see that's up a little bit. It needs to be down like where my hand is, so it's held in place. Okay, same thing with the white. Now you can use the floral wire as well. You can use the floral wire, but I'm using this because I don't even know where my floral wire is right now. And you won't see this. You won't see it. So I'm just gonna wrap that nice and tight underneath, and I'm gonna tie it in the back. Make sure it's in the back. Tied about 3 times, 2 to 3 times. All right, and now I'm just going to fluff out the ribbon again. Doesn't really have to be fluffed out right here because we're going to fluff it on the board. All right, so now let's go ahead and bring the board over now that the board is completely dry. I'm going to just open this up back here, and I'm going to pull this down, or you can even stick your finger back there and pull it down, because you want that to be completely in. See? Pull it up. All right. Now let's go ahead and let's put it on the board. Now I have my board. It's completely dry. So now I'm going to take my floral and I'm going to snip off 2 pieces. 2 pieces just like that, so you can see it. And I want to make sure I'm trying to get 2 pieces that look similar. 2 pieces that look similar in size and in shape when I'm putting them together, okay? So some of them are bigger than others, so you always want to get one that matches. So these two match, as you can see. These two are like the same size, and then these two are the same size. So depending upon the size of the board, like I would use this one for the 15 inches, and I would use the longer ones for the 18 or 22 inch. All right, so I'm just gonna place them up here at the top, just like so. You don't want it to hang too much off the board because it has to fit in the box, right? So you want to make sure that it's not out too wide. And I'm just always going to just make sure, see how it looks first. Make sure everything is centered before I go and start taping down. So now I used to do everything off the board first, meaning wrap it, tie it, make sure the ribbon is secured to this. And you can do it that way. That's one way to do it. That's when I would use the floral wire. So because I can't find it, I'm just going to again use this. Now you can staple this down just like this, and then you can staple this to the board. But it's just an extra step where you can wrap it first and then secure it. Wrap it first and then secure it. I'm gonna show you that method because that is, you know, a real easy method. I really wish I knew where my floral wire is, but I don't. So we're gonna have to go with this. All right, so I'm just gonna bring that in. And I'm just gonna wrap this. The floral wire works best on this part. This is when I use my floral wire. I'm making sure I'm going in between the leaves because I do not want to mess up the leaves. And I'm just going to wrap that together. And now all I'm doing is adding this in. My string should have been a little longer. It definitely should have. And I'm just gonna attach this on in the middle. And you can attach it however you want. I'm going to just tie this, and I'm going to add another piece of string because I definitely need more string. I don't know what I was thinking. Too short. All right, so I'm going to come up closer so you guys can really see what I'm doing. And all I'm doing is going underneath here, and I'm going to be wrapping this ribbon around the branches, all right, in all directions. All directions. Just wrapping it, making sure the stems are out. This makes sure that it is, you know, this method, this way to do it, make sure that it is, you know, much more tighter and secure. All right, just a few wraps. I don't, you know, overdo it because I don't want it to be seen. I'm just gonna tie that. Okay, now I'm just gonna cut this off. Gonna cut that off. Now most of the time I just staple my floral to the board first, and then I staple the bouquet to the board, but I wanted to show you this way as well. So now it might look like this part is turned, but all you gotta do is just twist it right back. Twisting it right back. If I can see the jute and it doesn't match with the color of the decor, then I'll take an extra piece of ribbon and I'll wrap it. So I'll probably do that in this case because this doesn't really match with the aesthetic of the color. So if it did, and especially if I had, you know, the burlap ribbon in the design, then I would definitely leave it. Okay, so in this case, it doesn't match. So I'm going to get some ribbon to wrap around that. All right, that's just an extra step because I want it to look nice. And I'll use the gray because I literally just have a small piece left. So that will work. And I'm going to hot glue it to the back because I don't have enough to tie it. So I'll hot glue that. All right, so I have this small little piece and I'm just going to place it down, put it around, making sure I'm not interfering with any of the leaves or stems. Okay. And it just meets in the back. Just meets. But we're gonna make it work. We're gonna make it work. All right, so I got my little electric hot glue gun right here, and I'm gonna just glue it down there. And we're going to place it. Oh yeah, it's hot enough for sure. All right, so now let's go ahead and attach this to the board. Okay, so I have my board here. I'm gonna go ahead and cut this off. Making sure my ribbon is centered before I staple it down. And I'm going to just place it where I want it. Place it exactly where I want it on the board. So again, you can do it separate. You do not have to do it this way. Let me bring you guys in closer so you can see what I'm doing. All right, so I have it nice and centered. I'm gonna first start by stapling down the stems, the branches. This would be the first step that you would do if you weren't attaching the ribbon to it, okay? Making sure I'm on a nice part of the branch where I know the staple is gonna go through. And I'm going to staple that down, okay? I'm going to staple that down. Okay, you have to make sure you find staples that is going to go into the board but not come out of the board, okay? Make sure it goes in the board but not comes out of the board. Okay, so this is for that side. I'm just spreading my ribbon. I'm gonna spread my ribbon. My bottom piece, my back piece of the ribbon, I always staple those. So that's another reason why you want to make sure it's out. So I'm going to staple that back one to that last one in onto the board as well. Okay. So I'm gonna find the back part for this one. It's kind of short. Don't want to pull it too much, but it's right there. That's giving this ribbon, you know, some more security to stay in place. And sometimes I'll even staple the full ribbon if it's not short. So I'm gonna go ahead and staple this because I'm gonna have all of that over it, okay? Now I'm going to do the same thing with this piece over here. Stapling this down. I'm going to lay that down. Just like so. All right, we'll come back to the ribbon and fix the ribbon up later. Let's go ahead and staple this branch down. We didn't do this side. All right. Again, get those branches out the way so that way they won't be in the way. So now I have that here. That looks nice. So now let's go ahead and begin to see how it's going to lay and fall. You can manipulate the shapes because you have wired ribbon. Remember, wired ribbon. Colors really look nice together, really pop together. All right, so now let's go ahead and shape this. You can put your ribbons to the side. Some people like putting it to the side. Some people put it in the middle. It all depends on the style of your board. All depends on the style of your board. That's a little to the left, but it's okay. We're gonna make it work, all right? So now all I'm gonna do is take my scissors. Now some people cut their tails in advance. Sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. I left it, but I'm always going to start with the back one because the back one is going to determine the length. And I still don't want it to come over the edge, over the words. So I'm just going to cut it in ducktail fashion. You put it together evenly. You put it together evenly just like so. And you're going to cut up on a slant. Going to cut up, and that's how you get your nice ducktails. Okay, so now you want your next color to be shorter than that because you want to see every style of ribbon. All right, see that? So now my first one is going to be even shorter. All right, so that way you can see each pattern of ribbon. All right, do the same thing for each one. Fold it in half and centered, and we're going to cut up on the slant. Try to make it as straight as possible, and if it doesn't come out with that little dip, do it again, because you want to get it on an angle. That's how you get the ducktail. Okay, now I'm going to do the next one. This was that really short black piece, remember? But it worked, because I told you that's going to be the top piece. And I like it when it's alternating the patterns. You can do it where it's exactly the same, you know, white, black, gray, or gray, you know, if you want. But I like it when it alternates. It gives it a little bit more character. Okay. And now for that top piece. All right. And now, just going to blow all this extra ribbon off. The board is sealed, so everything is fine. Sometimes I'll go, and if I really want my ribbon to like stay in a specific space, then I'll go and I'll staple down some more. So I'm going to do that over here. I'm going to staple it down just some more. And I'm never stapling the top one. I'm always going to staple like the second or the bottom. Okay, so I'll do that one to this one over here. The ones that have the cut edges, I'll fold them up so that way I don't get all those frays. Okay. So now my ribbon is spread out, looking better. I'm also going to, if it's showing, because that's showing, because that top ribbon is sheer, I'm going to try to tuck as much as I can, just like so. And that is literally it. You fluff it. That is literally it. That is how I do my ribbons. Last step, if you want, take a lighter and you burn the edges very lightly so that way you don't get any frays. So we're going to do that really quick, and that's going to be the last step. Now again, if you cut your tails, I don't really cut them in beforehand because sometimes I don't know how short I'm going to need it based upon the board, based upon the design. So I'll always just wait and do it at the end. All right, it's better for me. All right, so I'm going to do this really lightly, or especially on the gray ones, to get those frays. All right, you want to do this really quick, just to burn off the tips, just so it won't fray. Okay. Now make sure you don't burn yourself, or make sure you don't burn the ribbon. It literally burns off the frays. Keeps it from unraveling and gives it a more professional look. Okay. Sometimes the sheer ones are really hard to like cut and shape. Just do the best you can. Ooh. All right. And that is it. I'm going to show you how I package it. And this one is getting shipped out today. All right. That's the ribbon. Now, of course, they'll have to refluff this once they get it. But, you know, that's how it looks right there. So here's our completed sign that we made together. Yes, because you stayed with me, you helped me, and now you're about to master your own beautiful signs. You can be as creative, as unique as you want. Just take these basic steps that I showed you, that I taught you, and go ahead and make your own beautiful creations, and I cannot wait to see them. But now the next question is, after you've made your beautiful signs, how do you ship them? That is the thing that gets most people hung up. You might know how to make them, but you just haven't figured out how to ship them. So that's where I come in. I'm gonna help you because it's really quite easy and simple. And I've shipped them 2 different ways. As I said earlier, I started out using contractor's paper. So I'm just going to demonstrate how you would use this. If you don't want to go the box route, because that's going to be an additional cost. This is too, but this is a little bit cheaper. You would take this out, right? Roll it out. And this is what I would do. First, you're going to need this. You're going to need some bubble wrap. This is already used up like half the roll. You're going to need a huge thing of bubble wrap. I'm going to have some link down below as well in the supply list where I get it from. But you can also get bubble wrap. I don't buy it on Amazon anymore. I used to, but now I get it from Sam's Club because they have a huge bubble wrap roll right at Sam's Club. So please check your local Costco's or BJ's to see if they have it as well. So I would bubble wrap this first, making sure it's nice and secure. Everything, the ribbon, everything. All right. I'm not going to do it with this because I'm not going to use this method. I want to show you how you can do it if you don't get the boxes that I'm going to show you. So after my board has been bubble wrapped, I would then place this right here on the contractor's paper, and I'm going to make sure I have it to the size that I need. I'm going to then roll it this way again. I'm going to cover it. I'm going to cut it, tape it, and then I'm going to do it again the opposite direction, tape it up. I mean, really getting this thing nice and taped. You're going to be molding it to the shape of the board. So this is contractor paper. It can bend, it's flexible, it can move, but it's really thick. It's a really thick paper, right? So once you've had this bubble wrap nice and tight, then you're going to take the contractor paper and you're just going to wrap it. I normally wrap it about maybe 3 times, and this baby is secure. It's secure. Then I also, an extra step, sometimes I would send it out just with the contractor paper, but because I sold a lot of sweats and different things and I needed the bigger size poly mailers, hold on, I'm going to show y'all what I did as well. Because I love you guys and because you purchased this course from me, I'm just telling you all the secrets. So after I've bubble wrapped it, after I've secured it with the contractor paper, to now waterproof it to make sure that it doesn't get punctured, even though no one ever said it did. All my deliveries have always made it safely. That's not wood. But after I've done that, then I will put them in these huge poly mailers. And I even have one bigger than this that I would use for like the 22 inches. So again, you can get these really large poly mailers. This just makes it so that, you know, you can't see the contractor paper. It looks a little bit more professional. And then it just weather seals it. All right, so that's one method that you can do to wrap your boards, right? But that is a lot of work. That was time consuming when I was trying to rush to get to the post office. So that would delay me sometimes, to be honest. That would delay me. So now I don't use the contractor paper. I just use this like to use to paint on and stuff, right? But I still use it, but it still comes in handy. That's something that you can get literally the next day. Go to your local hardware store, go to your, you know, local Sam's Club, and you can get that literally the next day. But if you want a box, yes, this is a pizza box. Yes, this is a pizza box. And I get them from this site called Webstaurant. I believe that's how you pronounce it, Webstaurant store. I searched and I searched. Now you can get them from Uline as well, but Uline is really expensive. I mean, I don't even know how people shop on Uline because you have to pay the freight cost. So I have never purchased anything off of Uline because it's just really, really expensive. It doesn't benefit me. I don't buy that much. You have to buy so much for things to be, you know, cheaper. So all I did was get the 15-inch box. I got the 18-inch box. This is 18, and I believe my other one is 24 inches. So that way each sign would fit in. And I bought about a bundle of 50. That was it. So I do believe you can sign up for some type of club membership or something, but I bought, you know, like 50 to 100 and I canceled it and I'm good. When I want to do it again, then I'll sign up again. But you got to check the deals that they have. I'll have that link down below in the description box for you. But Webstaurant store is where I got my boxes from. So let's go ahead and I'll show you how I package it up. And another thing that I didn't show you, this is what I use. I use the filler. I get this from Staples. It's a huge 10-pound box and I get it in bulk because it's much cheaper. It says Supply Hut on the front, but it comes from Staples. So this is where I get my filler from. It's the best price that I have found anywhere. And this thing, one box literally lasts you a lifetime. So this is where I get it from. It's a huge box. So we're going to use this to put around the side. Just going to fold this in. Just fold in the corners. And yes, it's a thin box. It's not like a heavy duty box, but it does the trick. I promise you. I have never had a sign get destroyed or a box get destroyed. I've even had someone ship back a box and I shipped the box back. So it works. It works. And that's only because I made a mistake on the sign. All right, so I'm just going to take my bubble wrap and I'm going to just tear it off where the separated lines are. I'm making sure that I have enough on both ends to wrap, to bring together. Gotta find the separated line. Okay. So this is how I'm going to line my box. And now I'm going to do this way twice. And if you're making a lot of signs, you definitely go through this bubble wrap quick. That line be hiding from me sometimes, y'all. There we go. Now that I have my box lined with bubble wrap, I'm going to go ahead and place this on the inside. As you can see, this literally fits perfectly. 18-inch sign, 18-inch box. Actually, the dimensions of this did say 17.9 or something like that. I'm now just going to lay and flatten out the ribbon. In my instructions, I always write refluff ribbon, okay? Just gonna flatten that out. If any of your stems overlap, just bend them down, just tuck them down, okay? This is another reason why you wanna get wired ribbon, because you want to refluff it. Because of the paint, because of the stain, because of the heat, the weather, I don't want the bubble wrap to stick to the board at all. So I'm just going to line it with some tissue paper that I get from the Dollar Tree. Literally just putting tissue paper right here. And I'm going to put my thank you card, everything right here on the board. I didn't print out my packing slip yet, so I'll do that and I'll add that at the top. But you can add it, you know, inside here if you want to. I'm now just going to take my bubble wrap and I'm now just going to fold each part over, nice and secure. So now this is nicely padded, right? But I still want to make sure I'm filling in all the extra space, all the extra corners. That's where we're going to make it rain with the filler, with the crinkle paper. And we're just going to fill it in on the sides. Fill it in. Love this stuff. Love this stuff. Okay, so all I'm doing is just filling it in wherever there's space. Okay. If I have extra cardboards laying around, then I will pad the middle because, of course, you'll see when you fold in the box, and because the box is, again, a thinner box, you want to make sure that it's padded. All right. If I don't, I'll just take extra crinkle paper and fill in the middle. Okay. So I'm just going to do this for right now. I'm not going to show the shipping address or anything on the camera, but I'm now going to just fold this up, fold this and bend this in. I'm going to come back and add the packing slip and the shipping label. So I'm just making sure all those corners are filled in. So I have my packing slip. I'm just going to add it underneath all of the little shredded paper. Now I'm just going to close this, make sure it's nice and secure. And you have to make sure this front piece is kind of like over. Of course, when I'm filming, I would be out of all my regular tape that fit in my tape gun. So I'm doing this by hand with some other tape that I have. But by any means necessary, we're going to get this taped up, secured, and packaged and shipped off. So this is how I tape up my boxes. And then I'm taking them to the post office or UPS. Last thing I'm going to do is just apply the shipping label. And I also use fragile labels as well. I'm just gonna place that down right there. I'm using a Munbin Wi-Fi thermal label printer, self-adhesive, print right from home for all of my shipping labels. And as you can see, this is what the back looks like. 18 by 18 craft corrugated pizza box, okay? So this is ready to ship out. That's the end of this course. Again, I'm Katrina, and I truly hope that you have enjoyed my first masterclass on sign making. Again, I showed you how to do it the stencil method because that was this order, but you can do it with decals using permanent vinyl, and of course you can always laser engrave them for a more upscale look. So I did show you using the stencil method because that was this particular order, but you can do it with strictly just using decals, permanent vinyl, because that's easier, that will be faster, especially if you're just starting out. As long as you have any desktop cutter, that will do. Or for a more upscale luxury style or 3D effect, you can do full laser engraved, or you can do 3D cutouts where you cut out your woods or plywoods to apply them on top. If you have any questions, you can comment down below. I'll get back to you. Make sure to check out the supply list and tag me at Katrina's_graceful creation so that way I can see all of your beautiful wood signs. All right, I'm about to go ship this out to my lovely customer, and I can't wait to see your future projects. Thank you so much for trusting me just to teach you a little bit of what I know. Go out there and perfect it and make yours even greater. I'll see you guys next time. Bye.